Remote No Pressure Podcast, Bill.
Hey. Good to be back.
I started the recording and the metronome was involved and you laughed.
Sorry. It was funny.
I forgot to disable that. But at least it would give us some timing, as we're talking, just a boom, boom, boom.
And with comedy, it's all about timing.
It really is. And, being that we are the comedians that we are professionally, we're professional comedians with day jobs.
Yeah, well, that's the important thing because there's no money in comedy.
There's no money in comedy unless you're a famous comedian.
That's true.
I went to school with this kid, and I'll give him a shout out. His name is Tim Mathis, Tim. In case you didn't know how to spell Tim, and Mathis, Mathis. We grew up, and he was this really quirky kid in middle school.
Yeah,
like we lived in Texas, and he wore like this giant coats and like just.
Trench coats?
No, they were like, I think he was a bowler.
Like clown coats?
And I don't want to like, when you're a kid and you see things, and then when you remember when you're older.
It's not completely what you remember.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because I think he had like this, I think it was a bowling jacket that said, I bowled 300 on it. And the kid was just funny, even in middle school. Like he did not give a crap about anybody, like what they thought about him. He was just a funny dude. So he grows up and a really nice guy and everything. And he grows up and he was on Last Comic Standing or something like that. Oh, wow. Or no, who's the guy that was that goes to the cities and it's kind of like American Idol or whatever, but
no idea.
The best comedians in the city, and he was in Houston. The dude that was in the accident, the short guy that was in the accident recently.
Oh, what?
The car accident. Someone's saying it out loud. Anyways.
I don't know.
So he moved out.
Tracy Morgan?
No. Tracy Morgan's freaking hilarious. But anyways. So he, and he ended up like, we lived in Houston and there's some great comics that come out of Houston. And he ended up though, wanting to take it to the next level when he moved out to LA, and he's doing stuff out in LA now, Tim Mathis. And he was on a couple commercials, and it's just cool to see those guys like really grind it out. Yeah, and it's very, very cool. Anyway, I don't know how we got on that. There's no money in comedy.
No.
There's no money in comedy, so maybe we don't need to be funny.
No.
Maybe we offend too many people.
We do.
I don't know, but either way.
My mom stopped listening.
Is that a bad thing? Is it a bad thing that your mom stopped listening? That's the question.
Well, she wasn't much of a fly angler, so.
I just don't get it. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So anyways, but thanks for joining us this week, Bill. I'm very excited about this episode.
Yeah.
Because we have someone that, again, and I bring it up every week. We've got this big event with Aaron Reed. I think it's May the 7th or 8th. You think I bring it up every week, so you think I'd get the date down. But
One day.
It's that Thursday.
It's a long ways out, though. May, you said?
Yeah, in May.
Oh, it's months out.
We're gonna have Chris Barclay.
It's like 3 months.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, last week or a couple weeks ago on my episode with Chris Barclay, I called him Justin Barclay. Do you know who Justin Barclay is?
I don't.
He's a local radio guy named Justin. There's a guy on radio named Justin Barclay.
Here in Grand Rapids?
Yes. And so Chris Barclay is the guy that makes the killer rods, and I would say he's a friend of mine. And I called him Justin.
A friend.
And I literally get this emoji of a middle finger from Chris. And I'm like, what's going on? He was totally kidding, and he's like, my name's not Justin, ha ha ha. But he was nice about it because he's my friend, But sometimes I get talking and I get my brain gets going too fast. And like things just kind of come out.
Yeah.
So I felt really bad. So big shout out to my buddy Justin Barclay. Just kidding.
Whoa.
It's Chris Barclay. Chris Barclay is going to be down there. Brad Boone's going to be down there. Brandon Bales, who is the guest this week. Aaron Reed's going to be there, obviously. I'm going to be there. Wild Bill, you're welcome to come too. You're invited.
Aw.
And I'm trying to think. Davin Topol, Paul Torres, like 7 people.
Wow.
And then the guy from Sightline Provisions is 8. I think there's like 7 or 8 of us going to be there. We have a designated survivor.
Oh, and Meryl
Robinson.
too, right? Yeah.
I don't know if she's going to be there or not, but she potentially it's going to be a lot of fun.
Surprise guests. Potential surprise guests.
Potential surprise. The thing is, if you're in the Austin area or in Texas in general, it's worth the drive to Georgetown that night.
You can't afford not to.
It's going to be an unbelievable night. I'm so excited. I talked to Aaron Reed yesterday. I'm like, what's going to happen when the day after I'm going to just be like, really let down, but it's important for me as a human being, and I'm learning this as I get older, that I need to live in the moment.
Yeah.
I need to enjoy this excitement. I need to enjoy this build up,
That's right.
Why is that so hard for adults?
I don't know. That's a good question. Why can't adults, I don't know. Why can't we?
Why can't we be present?
No.
And that's part of the reason we started the podcast and fly fishing is because of...
Where have we failed ourselves then? Where have we failed ourselves?
Okay, I don't mean to bring the heavy here. Okay?
Whoa.
I don't mean to bring the heavy. This is my theory.
Buckle up.
Because we've had some very great things that have happened in our lives.
Yeah.
And I know it's just all going to be over.
Whoa.
One everything is.
We're all going to die.
It's all going to be over. So it's like, I'm not even talking about death yet.
Whoa.
Don't bring the death thing in here.
It's all going to end one day.
God, this thing has just really gone off the rails. But anyways, I'm very excited, and I'm going to enjoy the excitement between now and May 7th or 8th, depending on the day of it is. Is that Thursday? But I'm going to be fishing with Paul Torres the day before. Mm-hmm. The RMP crew is going fishing. I don't know how many of us are going to be fishing the day of.
Awesome.
We're all going fishing. Dude, I am so pumped right now. I can't even tell you. It's hard for me to sleep at night. But this week on the episode, we have Mr. Brandon Bales with us. Yeah, I'm very happy. Unbelievable fly tire, warm water fly angler. He's tying poppers. He's tying bass flies. He's tying those flies that are unique in the Southeast, and he's got that accent. He works for NASA, smart guy.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when the government shut down NASA for a few months? I think it was last year.
Yep.
He was like, I forgot what they called. Government. I don't remember what it's called. But he had some flies. He was tying flies like crazy. And it was so funny what he called them. I'm going to bring it up on the episode. He called them anyway, you got to listen to the episode.
Just listen to it. Just stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.
Oh, dude, he's got this depending on where you're from, I call him a crawfish. People up here call them crayfish.
Oh, the crayfish, yeah.
The crayfish.
I didn't know what you were talking about. You said it all crawfish.
Crawdaddies. We call them crawdaddies. Have you ever heard that before?
Yep.
Yeah, crawdaddies.
We call them cray daddies up here.
Oh man! But he's got this new pattern for the crawfish, crayfish, whatever you call it, depending on where you're from. Mud bugs, I don't know what you call them. But anyways, whenever you go to catch a crawfish, it gets defensive and it puts his claws up, like he's in a defensive mode. So Brandon, I'm very excited about this particular pattern because I fish for a lot of smallies.
Yeah.
And dude, it is on point. I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay.
And then I talked to Brad Boone, who fishes Brandon Bales flies all the time. He loves Brandon Bales flies. He is a killer tire, so I'm very excited to have him on this week.
That's very cool.
And he's a good guy. We're getting the band back together.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about our house band called Fecal Discharge.
Yeah, I was gonna bring them up later.
Dude, that is an awful name. We're going to lose listeners over our house band name.
Or sell some cool t-shirts.
Dude. Fecal Discharge. When I play out, I should name my band the Fecal Discharge. Jeff Troutman and the Fecal Discharge. What genre would they be?
It sounds like a punk thing.
It does.
It would probably be punk.
Lots of hot pink, fluorescent colors on the shirt.
See that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And brown lettering. Would that be too obvious?
Yeah, it's so disgusting. It has to be ironic, right?
Yeah.
My mind is just going.
This is 2 weeks in a row. Let's see how long this continues.
This is stupid. This is the kind of thing that really pisses people off.
And this is why my mom stopped listening. I tuned in for the fly fishing. You just kept talking about poop names.
All those poop names. Is that really how your mom talks? Does she talk like that?
Nope. I'm being funny.
I know. It's just funny the accents we come up with when we're talking about other people and using their voice, you know?
Is that what I sound like? No, I'm sorry.
No, Mom. And I don't mind the fecal talk. That's my boy. I'll always be proud of you. Even when you do stupid things, I'll always be proud of you. You'll always be my baby. God. Holy crap. Okay, anyways, this week on the Rowing Over Pressure podcast, very excited to have Fly Tire, and we're beginning to be good friends. Mr. Brandon Bells, I'm very excited to have him on. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I'm very excited to have Mr. Brandon Bales back on the horn with us. Thank you so much. How you doing, Brandon? Thanks for joining us.
Good, man. Thanks for having me back again.
Yeah. I'm very excited. We had Aaron Reed on a couple weeks ago, and it was a great episode. And some of the feedback we got was like, man, you should have more of the people who've been on the show. Now that you have, first of all, better audio, because before, especially season 1, I think you came on in season 2. Was Bill on?
Yeah, I think it was season 2, yeah.
Yeah. So season 1 was rough, man, because I didn't know what I was doing, you know? and then you get Bill on, and things have haven't improved dramatically. So I'm just bringing some people back on, especially people that are going down to see Aaron down in Austin in May for his book release, Fly Fishing Austin in Central Texas, which we're all very excited about. How did you meet Aaron, by the way?
I believe, let's see, it's either, I can't recall exactly. I'll say this. It was either through Chris Barclay, because me and Aaron both, I'm sure you know, love Chris's rods. Chris is a good friend of both of ours. Or he might have just ordered some flies from me before. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a connection to Chris there somewhere.
You know, I asked Brad Boone the same question, you know, how he met Aaron Reed, and I think he ran into him in a fly shop or something and said, hey, he knew him from social, and was like, are you Aaron Reed? But Aaron Reed's one of those people that you don't remember how you met him, but it's like you've always known him.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. How did you meet Chris? Do you know, do you fish with Chris? Have you ever met Chris in person, Chris Barclay, or how do you know him?
Yeah, me and Chris, a couple of years ago, actually it's been more 6-7 years ago, I ordered my first custom fly rod, and I had looked around. I liked all these different, I mean, there's so many different rod builders out there, and especially with the fiberglass fly rods that do a phenomenal job. But I'd been seeing Chris's work in the past, and just his style really lined up with what I like the most. No frills, attention to detail, but a sort of minimalistic approach to his rods while still looking awesome. And so I called him up, or we exchanged emails, and then finally I called him up one day when I was ready to order the rod, and we talked for a little bit, and it's funny, we just sort of hit it off, and I got it was a 3-weight I ordered from him, and I got that in. And then soon after I needed a 4-weight from him. And then it was like, it just sort of spiraled, and the collection kept growing. But in the meantime, he was moving from St. Louis to Winston-Salem. He was in that transition period. And it worked out that my wife's grandparents lived within a couple of hours of where he moved to in Winston-Salem. So I was going to be up doing some fishing, and there was a fly fishing or fly tying demo, and we made plans to meet up, do some fishing and just hang out for a couple of days. And it's one of those things, like you talked about, Aaron, and I know me and you've talked before, like you went and stayed with Aaron, not even really ever meeting him in person, just talking back and forth. It was that way with Chris. Like I think he was going to sleep in his vehicle the whole weekend that he was in Franklin, North Carolina. And I said, hey, I'm at my wife's grandparents' house. It's just me and this 3-story house. You're more than welcome to stay. And he's like, yeah, it sounds a lot better than the back of my Honda Element. So yeah, but it's one of those things, like I was about to say with Aaron, you just sort of meet him and it's almost like you've known him your whole life, like a friend from when you were a kid, like, oh, we're just catching up. But in all reality, it's the first time I'd ever met him in person. And from then on, we've, we'll text or call, or, we're usually back and forth discussing something that involves fishing or flies or something of that nature, almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's you, Chris Barclay, Brad Boone, Aaron Reed. It's like, we talked a little bit yesterday, just about your journey, how similar it is with your professional life, and like Chris Barclay and I, we both lived in St. Louis, and for both of us, that was a very instrumental time in our growing up and figuring out life, and that was a weird time. It's just weird how, it's just odd. I can't explain it.
I know, it really is how everything sort of aligns and all these people meet over time with all these similarities.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I grew up in going to church. My family is very religious or very religious growing up. And we were part of a certain denomination and you could go to, any city in the country and go to a church there, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're from Houston? Oh, do you know Eula May? Oh, actually, yeah, she goes to my church, because we were all in the same congregation. You know what I mean? Like we're all part of the denomination. It's kind of a unique denomination, and there's always someone related. But it's like that with fly fishing too. It's like you go to a fly shop, and I was down in Houston at Bayou City Angler. Was it over New Year's, like New Year's Eve or something? I went to Bayou City Angler in Houston, and just chewing the fat with those people, and then just ask them, hey, do you know so and so? Yeah, they're in there all the time. They used to guide out of here, and it's just really cool to have this. Almost like a religious group of guys with kind of the same philosophy about life and people who've been through some stuff, Yeah,
exactly. It's and that's why I think I truly think that's why fly fishing works for Project Healing Waters, for instance. You look at how big that organization is and how well it does. There's something to be said about the fly fishing, not just the community, but the experience, that obviously brings people back. And I think there's a good reason for that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's you could be at a party with total strangers, and you find out one person fly fishes, and you're both in a corner just chewing the fat the rest of the night, drinking whiskey.
for the rest of the night. Yeah,
and everyone else can do whatever they want. We're best buds all of a sudden, And it's kind of funny thinking back on it. Like I was in Houston for a food show for work last summer, and I drove over to see Aaron, and like I had never met Aaron in person. I don't know, like, you don't know this person could be a total pigsty in his house, or do you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking he offered to let me stay at his house, but it could be like disgusting there, and I want to be nice about it. Or what if he's a serial killer? You just don't know. But I trusted him, and I did not. I was like, nah, he's a fly angler. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I will share this story though. I have met someone through the podcast before. Okay, that texted me, or they messaged me through the podcast, and they're like, hey, I'd like to go fishing. I'm from the east side of Michigan. I'm not gonna say this person's name, okay, because I don't know if they, And I was like, okay, great. Well, let's go fishing. So I meet up with him, and I got like. It was the exception to the rule. Let's just put it that way. I was like, he showed up with like pentagrams on his stuff, yeah, it was just a very different experience. I was a little nervous for my safety. Made sure my wife knew where I was.
Know the location.
Yeah. And he turned out to be a really nice person. I don't think he listens to the podcast, but maybe he does. I don't know. I shouldn't say all this, but let's just say it was a unique experience. I was I was scared for my life a couple times. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, oh, good. But anyways, I'm very comfortable talking to you, so I say dumb things and I stick my foot in my mouth. But that's the way it goes.
I do the same thing. Don't worry.
So, now Shultz Outfitters here in Michigan is doing like a Dirty Dozen thing, and they were featuring your flies. How did you end up with that particular gig?
I received. Let's see. How did I think Mike Shultz. He contacted me through Instagram, and I've bought a lot of material from those guys. For a lot of the feathered game changers. It seems like Mike gets in some of the best hen saddles for that particular pattern. So I've ordered a lot from Mike over the years, and he contacted me through Instagram and said, "Hey, I'm doing this. We did it last year, not on such a big scale." He said, "But I want to do this little program we're going to call the Dirty Dozen, and basically I'm going to pick out. We've picked out 12 potential fly tires that either they're not a full-time fly tire, but they're sort of, I feel weird putting myself in this category, but a more well-known tire, or someone that has, I guess, a presence." Right. And that's where I was sort of stunned, because he said, "Hey, call me up at the shop, or call my cell. Here's my number. It'll just take a couple minutes." So I called him up, and he told me, said, "Look, we're going to pick 12 tires, 12 months. They send in a baker's dozen of their patterns or the flies that they, are sort of known for. And then I'm just going to bring them have that dozen in the shop. And when it's your month, you go through, and we're just going to sell these, of course, do a little bit of a markup because, he paid me for the flies." And anyway, after that, he was just going to sell the flies for each month. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, so who all's going to be tying for this?" Just Blaine Chocolate, Larry Dahlberg. Like, he names off. And I'm like, "Are you sure I'm going to be able to?" I don't feel like I fit in this category. Greg Senyo, like, there are all these guys that I really look up to as far as fly tying goes. I'm thinking, wow, I'm out of my league here. They said, "No, we really want some of your flies in the shop." So I think my month was actually supposed to be in June, but because of our Texas trip coming up, my wife is probably getting tired of it, but I've been preparing for Texas already. We're going in May. I'm already trying to build up my stash of what I'm taking to Texas. But anyway, I rushed through, and I got these flies done for Mike, thinking, oh, by April, I'm not even going to want to think about tying a dozen flies, to ship to Michigan. I'm going to be thinking about Texas. So needless to say, I went ahead and did the dozen, and I texted Mike and said, "Hey, I'm done with mine." He said, "Oh, well, go ahead and send them." And awesome. I think I must have swapped months with somebody. So February was my month. I sent the flies in. I text Mike today and I said, "Hey, the fly is selling okay?" And he said, "Yeah, out of the dozen, we have 2 left." And I think he put them up for sale yesterday around 10 a.m. So they went pretty quick. So I felt very privileged to be, like I said, listed with all these other potential guys that were going to tie for the shop.
Well, that's great, and we may have touched on this before in the previous podcast, but how did you get into tying so passionately? I mean, you're very good at it, Brandon. I know it may be hard for you to lump yourself in with the people that with your heroes, or whatever. But in all honesty, you're very talented at what you do. How did you get into it, and how did you get so good at it?
Well, I started tying. Well, I've always had an artistic side. when I was in elementary school and middle school, I love to draw, paint, sketch. I mean, I spent so much time doing that. But my grandfather, he was really, once he retired, he was really into woodworking. He did a lot of wood carvings, and he also did paintings and things like that. And growing up, also, me and him and my younger brother spent a lot of time on Panther Branch, which is right across the street from their house. And so there was this passion there for being outside, being around, water, fish, whatnot, as well as I was sort of surrounded with art too, with my grandfather. And when it turned into tying I've always had to be busy at something. When I'm not at work and not at kids' ball games or not running around my wife doesn't like it at times, but I can't be still. I have to be creating something. So yeah, I started tying more whenever I used to hunt quite a bit. I actually bow hunted with traditional gear, a recurve, a longbow. That was my thing. And I would spend my nights out here in the garage making these, ornate, very detailed cedar arrows that I would hunt with, or that would get lost when I would shoot at a squirrel because I was bored in a tree stand. So once kids happen and all that, and the hunting sort of slowed down, and I finally gave it up because of a shoulder injury. I started fly fishing more and more, which I'd fly fished since I was a kid, but I became a lot more passionate about it, and gradually just started tying. And that's the one thing, and my wife will also tell you, if I go into a hobby, I usually go in, I'm all in. It's, I'm going to know everything about the material, or I think I need to know everything about the material. And I joke around a lot, but to an extent, yeah, I'm OCD. I mean, that's, as I can look back now as a kid and see where it could have affected me in a negative way. But I had to focus on something else, and that just happens to be fly tying. I think that I'm able to channel that OCD to something positive and put it into my work as far as the flies go.
One of the flies that I've really enjoyed looking at, because I like this, and Shultz, Mike Shultz over in on the east side of the state, he's just created an outstanding smallmouth fishery over there. But I like to fish for smallmouth bath.
Mm-hmm.
BATH bath. No, yeah. For small, I can't say smallmouth bass. And some of your, we call them crawfish in Texas. What do you guys call them? Crawdads?
Most time it's crawdads, crawfish. I've never heard anyone in Alabama say crayfish. I know that's maybe proper, but most time crawdads is what I say. But if I'm being proper, I may say crawfish.
Yeah, crawfish. I don't want to sound too redneck, but it's all I know. So with the crawfish patterns that you have, I mean, did you come up with those? Did you start with another pattern and change it up? Because you have one, and you said it's kind of off the menu because it's very time consuming, but it's the one pattern you have where the crawfish is in the defense mode and like it's gonna, it's just give us something. How did you come up with that particular pattern?
That one, that's sort of in the hatchling, what I call the hatchling lineup. To go back, the hatchling crawl, which is a really small crawfish imitation, tied in a size 10 and 12. I've tied it down as small as a 16, but that's another like off the menu thing because it's so tedious to tie them that small. That really started because I wanted a smaller crawfish that I could use in the majority of the streams and creeks that I fish. They're pretty small. I mean, there's deep holes, and you could fish with a crawfish that's up to 3-4 inches long. But my mentality at the point I'm at now in my life, my mentality is I just like to go out and catch fish. I don't necessarily want to catch that. I don't want to fish all day and just catch that one big fish. Now, I will say there are days where I do go out and I'm like, okay, I want to see what's the biggest fish in this area. I'm going to fish some bigger stuff, but 99% of the time, I just go out and want to catch fish, and that's the one thing that I love is these smaller creeks around my house. You can go out and catch, in that little small size 10 or 12 hatchling. I've caught pretty much all the panfish or sunfish we have. Decent sized bass. I think the biggest largemouth I've caught was probably around 18, 19 inches. I've caught some smallmouth pretty close to that, 17, 18 inches. But the thing is, it seems to me that the bigger crawfish, you'll get 1 or 2 big fish to eat it. But if you just want to go out and have fun, which is what I normally like to do, I'll use the small ones. You'll catch a little bit of everything. So it's almost like a surprise on each, every time you set the hook. The defense mode hatchling that I tied a week or 2 ago, I came up with that after seeing, again, one of the guys I look up to, Blaine Chocolate. He has a feathered game changer, but he has developed one that's an actual crawfish. And this, it's a bigger pattern, and I saw the foam on the claws, and I was like, man, that's really cool to see, And there's another guy that tied something really similar. There's so many, I feel like I know a lot of people have probably done it before, but there's another guy, John Hicks is his name. He did a similar pattern, and I was thinking, wow, if I want to go out for smallmouth and I don't want to, maybe this could be an additional trigger, something to provoke the fish to bite, because I remember as a little kid reaching my hand down in the water to grab a crawfish, and it throws up its pinchers. And of course, as a little kid, I jerked my hand back and wasn't having any part of it. But, to a hungry smallmouth, that's almost like waving a flag, like, hey, I'm over here, come eat me.
Right.
So that was the thinking behind that was, I've got the regular hatchling that is just a little bottom bouncer, or I even use it. I've actually used it up in the Smoky Mountains on brook trout streams and used it as a nymph practically under an indicator and caught brook trout and wild rainbows on it. So I wanted something that I could just sort of drop in, and I wouldn't necessarily have to strip it back. It could sit and do work on it. So, it could provoke a strike just sitting there before I actually bounced it or retrieved it back.
Well, I got to fish with it now. It sounds amazing, especially and that's why I think drew me to it too, is because, like you said, growing up in Texas, we're in the mud streams there, and you're always trying to catch crawfish, and they're always pinching. They're always trying to pinch you, and so I was like, man, that is a great pattern, and it's very it's just amazing. Now, tying them that small though, especially that detail, how long does it take you to tie one of those, like on a number 10?
The number 10 hatchling, now that I have everything, I've tied so many of those. And what I do now is I'm looking here at all my fly tie materials. I have everything. I have a separate drawer just for tying hatchlings. Most of my materials just spread out like, all right, here's marabou in this box, here's rubber legs, here's eyes. I have one box that's just labeled hatchlings, and it has pre-cut bodies, the dumbbell eyes, the hooks, the right length zonker strips to make the little claws or pinchers, the antenna. And I can just pull that kit out, and I can tie about 5 minutes per fly. 5 to 8 minutes is because here I'm sounding OCD. I've time myself, and, it varies from 5 to 8 minutes per fly.
Wow. But you also, I mean, it sounds like you've got a system there. Everything is kind of pre-cut and ready to go. So
exactly.
Like an assembly line. Completely opposite of my fly tying materials, which is they're all over the place, not organized at all, and it takes me 22 minutes to tie a woolly booger. Because I'm like, where is everything? You know, always constantly looking over. I'm an artist as well, but not with the engineering mind like you. I'm the scatterbrain type artist, which people probably understand if they listen to the show very often. They're like, "What is he talking?" And even like I called Chris Barclay Justin Barclay a couple times on that last interview, and I felt so bad. But there's like a radio DJ in town named Justin Barclay.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but my brain, is scattered like it is, and Chris Barclay a couple times, Justin Barclay a couple times. It's all good. We all know Chris is the ninja for creating rods, the ninja rod builder. So all you need to know is Barclay.
Now, did he answer to Justin Barclay? Is the question.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Aaron, and we were just kind of talking about it, and so then of course Chris sends me a text, and we were going back and forth. It was kind of funny, but I think I'm going to just call him Justin from now on, just to get under his skin.
I'm going to have to do that too. Because I can say that because this is funny. I'm telling on Chris a little bit here, but anytime he sends me a rod, I've noticed. So we got a new mail lady about 6 months ago, and so I started noticing. She saw me out one day, and she was laughing when she brought the rod tube that Chris had built the rod for me. He sent it to me, and she was bringing it up, I guess, for me. I guess I had to sign for it. And she was laughing, and she was like, "Is that she's like, "It looks like you have an admirer." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, thanks." And I was thinking, because there's some people riding their bikes down the street. And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't really get that. Okay." And I looked, and I thought, "Oh, you know what? She's the new mail lady. She doesn't know." But on every package Chris sends me, he prints out a shipping label, and it's either Brandon Sweet Cheeks Bales or Brandon Honey Bun. So that's what she was talking about, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." So I'm good, but I forget every time I mail Chris flies or whatever. I usually it's flies. I'll be sending them. I'll forget, and I'll mail them like, that was my chance to get back at him, but I forget every single time.
Well, anyone who buys a fine rod from Chris, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to add honey bun on that shipping label if they buy it.
Oh yeah, no charge. Yeah.
For no charge, and I'm sure if anyone wants to buy some flies from Brandon, he too will put some kind of secret admirer logo
I can personalize it.
Hot Stuff McGee to like this. Yeah. If the mail person brought that up to my house, he'd be like, "I think I'm at the wrong house right now." Or they would laugh because they know it's a joke. So that's the way it is. But that's great, man. What is your favorite fly? Like if it was just you and you had one fly to tie for the rest of your life, what would it be? What's that one fly that you just really enjoy tying and it's productive and you enjoy?
Oh man, that's so tough.
Well, I guess saying enjoy tying and what's most effective, that could be two very different things, I guess.
Well, so this is going to be probably a different answer than you would think, but if there was a fly that I could tie for myself to use and to fish and that's effective, it would be some form of a deer hair bass bug. Now, if I had to tie and sell those, I would hate myself because they're so actually, before you called, I just finished up one, and that's the thing. It's deer hair is so time consuming, and when you see that someone wants a dozen deer hair bass bugs, I just cringe now. I used to, I did. I mean, I still do that for close friends, but, And, there are more, and that's the reason they're more expensive, no matter who ties deer hair bugs. They know, it's more or less the time that you spend on them. But when it's just me tying a deer hair bug for my box, I enjoy the whole process. I love, stacking the hair on the hook. And then it goes back into me enjoying the woodworking like I did with my granddad growing up. You're taking a blade after that and you're basically carving almost like you would whittle or carve wood. Mm-hmm. So you're going back and you're taking away what you just added on the hook, and you can turn it into whatever you want. And it's really effective. I mean, in warmer weather, that's sort of my go-to for a smallmouth. And that's really what I spend the majority of my time doing in the summers, chasing smallmouth. A lot of people would argue that and say, well, I see a lot of panfish or sunfish, that you post pictures of. And honestly, I do a lot of that too. What I tell people is I compare it to when I go out and I've got my 2 or my 3 or 4 weight and I'm chasing bluegill, red breast sunfish, any type of sunfish. I almost compare that to going out squirrel hunting if I was a hunter. And then I compare the smallmouth as to like when I pull out the big gun and I go deer hunting. That's really the mindset I have when I go out. I'm like, well, do I just want to have fun today and catch a bunch of fish, or do I want to go try to catch, and usually I can catch quite a few smallmouth or just largemouth for that reason. And that's really the way I sort of decide. I'm like, well, do I just want to have fun today? I mean, it's fun either way, but it's like, it's almost like there's a little more serious tone to it when I'm after smallmouth. I take, I'm taking everything into consideration, water temperature. I'm looking online to see what the flows are for the water I'm going to. So yeah, that's sort of what I compare it to. And even with sunfish, I would use a deer hair bug. I don't know if you've seen, but I tie some that are downsized just for smaller fish, sunfish and whatnot. And that would have to be the fly that I would use if it was just for me and I had to tie it for the rest of my life. It would be some type of deer hair popper or diver or slider.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, it's some of your deer hair poppers that you make that are on your Instagram, Panther Branch Bugs. Now you know what Panther Branch is. It's where you fish with your grandpa. Right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But they're amazing. It does look like a wood carving almost, and I could totally see you doing that. So those are amazing. We'll put up some links to your social. Do you have a website, Brandon, or everything goes through your social, through your Instagram?
No, just social media. My Instagram mainly. I'm on a couple of different groups on Facebook, and I have a general personal Facebook page. But yeah, the majority of my work is on my Instagram.
If people wanted to order, do you have a price list somewhere? Do they just reach out to you and ask, hey, can you tie me some flies? Can you price them out? Or how does that work, Brandon?
That's usually it's a matter of just someone contacting me, and most of the time they'll send me a screenshot and say, hey, I really like this fly. Can you tie some? And I'll give them a quote right there. Or if someone, but a lot of times what I really enjoy, I've had a lot of people contact me and they'll say, hey, I'm going to, let's see, what was it? 2 weeks ago, I had a friend that I went to high school with. He is in medical school in Miami, or he's actually doing his residency. And he said, hey, he sent me a text, said, hey, I'm going to Belize in March. Can you tell me some flies? I want to catch bonefish and at least chase permit. And he said, and while I'm here in Miami, while we're living here, I really want to catch peacock bass that live in the canals. Mm-hmm. So he just like gave me free rein. He's like, hey, I want say a dozen for the saltwater flats and half a dozen for peacock bass. Do whatever you want to do. And I really enjoy those type of orders. So really, yeah, it's either way, but I do get a lot of local orders. I was telling someone a couple of weeks ago, I don't know what's going on, but there was this influx or this sudden interest, or at least I received this sudden interest in carp flies. And personally, I don't personally fish for carp. I know Aaron does. I know there's a lot of people that do. And I know, I have caught them in the past, but I don't actively pursue carp. But yeah, it was like for one solid week, I received all these, and they were from different people that didn't know each other. Hey, can you tie some carp flies? Hey, I need some carp flies for this spring. So yeah, it's weird how it works too, how you get this influx of, it's almost like everybody's on the same page as to what they're wanting to order. So yeah, it's usually just through someone contacting me via Instagram or email.
With the carp flies, you just send them like a piece of corn on a hook, or?
I mean, that's the thing. If it were up to me, well, I don't know. I'm not going to say. But I mean, I will say that carp, they're really, if you are really into red fishing, which I love fishing for redfish when we go down in the Gulf. If I was really into red fishing and I didn't live near the salt, like, the salt for me 6-7 hours away, carp is a perfect replacement, if you ask me, as far as because if you can find a good mud flat, especially spring and summer when they're done spawning, you can catch them out tailing just like you would a redfish in the marshes, on low tide or whatever. So they're definitely a solid game fish. I've just never, and I might get scorned for this, but I used to bow fish back when I bow hunted. I would bow fish some, and I never threw any of the carcasses away. We actually used them in my friend's granddad's garden. He used them as fertilizer. So we would go out and, shoot these carp and bring them back to his granddad, and he would have them out there in his garden, and that was sort of his fertilizer. But yeah, I don't know if it's because of that. I don't know. I've just never really gotten, the carp bug, but I do enjoy tying the flies for them, though. I mean, they're, you can sort of freestyle at a lot of saltwater patterns, bonefish patterns or redfish. You can sort of morph them into these warm water patterns to use just for carp.
Yeah, we had Danny Scarborough. I think that was in season 1. He's out of Houston, and he has some killer carp patterns that they've used down there that have been really productive. And it's more than just a mulberry or a piece of corn. They're pretty ornate, and they do a really good job.
Yeah.
So the corn thing, I think, is just funny because there are actual flies that are corn.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And we had Holden Ausmus. He's from Iowa, and he's in the combine tying corn flies. That was kind of his thing. It was kind of funny because here he is in the combine tying corn flies because it pretty much drives itself, and he's got a couple of really cool flies that he tied from the combine, which I thought that was really cool. We'll put some links of that too.
Cool.
But Brandon, thanks for hanging out, dude. I'm just like you. I'm already packing for Texas. I was down in Houston New Year's. I stopped by Bayou City Angler. I got this sweet fly box with a Texas flag on it and everything. Okay, man. I'm ready to go, bro. I'm so pumped. We're gonna have a great time.
It's gonna be fun. I told you when we were talking just the other day that this is the first time in 6 years since I've made a fishing trip. I mean, I fish in Tennessee and all around my house. I mean, I'm just minutes away from Tennessee, but to actually go on a multi-day trip, the last time was 6 years ago. I went to the White River in Arkansas, and I really love trout, but man, warm water fishing, it just, that's home to me. I mean, and you know, again, like we were talking the other day, there's some species out there that I've never caught that I'm probably a lot of people don't think much about, like the Rio Grande cichlid and the Guadalupe bass. Like I'm really amped to try to check those off the list. And, you know, it'll be fun fishing with everybody. And also I should mention that on May 6th, that's the day I fly into Texas. That night I'll be at Living Waters doing their tires night. We're actually going to tie up. I'm going to do a how-to with everybody following along, tying their own hatchling crawl. And then the night, which will be the day that Aaron is at Living Waters for his book, sort of, I don't know if we're going to do like a side-by-side thing or what, but I will be there doing a tying demo as well on May the 9th.
Dude, I'm so pumped about that. That day that you arrive, I'm on the schedule with Paul Torres to go fishing the Guad. Be hanging out with you that night at Living Waters. The next day, we're all fishing together, and then that night is the book release party at Mesquite Creek, and I'm playing a show there too with Aaron.
Awesome,
dude. We're gonna have a great dude. It's gonna be so fun, and I'm so excited. I can't stop thinking. I told Aaron, it's like, dude, it's coming up, and you realize I'm already thinking like, how am I gonna feel the day after it's all over with? Because it's gonna suck, but I gotta like enjoy this moment, you know.
Oh yeah. I'm right there with you, man. I'm thinking the same thing, and it's weird because it's almost like other than Chris, which I told you I'd fish with. It's strange to feel like it's almost like a reunion, but it's people you've never actually met in person,
right?
You know?
Exactly. Man, I'm looking forward to it, Brandon. Well, thanks for hanging out with us again on the podcast. We'll be sure to put up links to all of your socials in the show notes. So if people want to order some flies, check out your flies. The quality of your flies are second to none. They're amazing. You're such a talented guy. It's talent and hard work you've done. The combination, the two have to come together, right? Because there's some people that are not talented but work their tail off and can kind of get good. And then there's some people that are really talented that don't have to work very hard and they don't have the work ethic, and those people I don't like. But you have both the work ethic and the talent. It's come together there at Panther Branch Bugs. And thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me again.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us, Bill.
Always a pleasure.
Dude, are you ready for the warm-up?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm ready for some camping.
Ready to hit the flat?
Yes. Oh yeah. I didn't even hit the flat last year.
Really?
Yeah. 2019 was a busy year, and
yeah,
I never even once went up. I drove by it a couple times.
Oh really?
I love Lowell.
I told you about my son catching that giant smallmouth there, right?
Yep.
The biggest one I've ever seen out there. He catches it on a worm and a Zebco 202.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I've been fishing this river for years and I've never caught one that big before.
No kidding.
Yeah. And he's just like, okay, can I swim now, Dad? I just want to play. I'm like, fine, whatever. Oh. He just got like the fish of a lifetime and he's like, can I play now?
Did you take pictures?
I tried to, but he dropped it in the water.
Oh.
And I got like the splash.
Oh.
Yeah, it was too big for him. It's a little guy.
Oh.
I should have had my net.
Yeah.
But I'm not used to catching giant fish like that on the flat. So anyways, well, thanks for joining us. Be sure to check us out on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel down below for the people that are watching.
Ring the bell for notifications.
Ring the bell for notifications. Yo, we are here. We're in it in the YouTube channel. Yo, yo, yo. I see the whole fecal discharge conversation, the band. Now I'm starting to talk like a punk.
I know.
Dude, this is stupid. This is
What's up with a mohawk?
Dumb thing. I don't have enough hair for a mohawk.
You could wear a wig.
I could have a reverse mohawk because I'm balding and just tell people, look, this is a reverse mohawk.
That would be kind of cool.
Hair on the side, nothing in the middle.
I like that idea.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna have to take this offline. Be sure to check us out. leave a review. Check us out on our social media platforms. Thank you very much, Brandon Bales. Thank you for Aaron Reed. Thank you for everyone who's been a part of this podcast. And until next time, go fishing.